哦，对对对。
The 60 so I do know that. Because even if the
Okay, people just joining right now, so that's a good thing. Mhm.
Hey, Luke, can you hear me?
Hi, yes.
You sound low.
Oh, can you?
Yeah, can you turn yourself up? You're a little low. My speaker's all the way up. Well, everybody that's here, we're going to welcome you for our second roundtable. We're going to give people a couple of more minutes while we try to make sure we're all set on our end.
We were not paying for both of them. No. You're saying 500 is for both of them.
You're on speakerphone.
No. For both of them. Okay, right, all right. Sorry about that.
So, are you able to see the PDF?
I can see it. I do see it.
Okay.
Why are you so, is there any way you can turn up your volume? I don't know if, Kim, can you hear Luke clearly?
No, I'm having trouble hearing you as well, Luke. You
Okay.
sound very low and far away.
Okay. I'm not quite sure why that is. Okay. Let me try a few things here. Sorry, everyone. I wasn't having this issue earlier, so apologies.
Hi, Nathan. Thank you for joining us. Lydia, I see you're online as well.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. So Patrick, I need you to watch our time for us, okay?
Yep, sure. This is a 90-minute call, correct?
Yes, sir.
All right. Hello, everyone.
Lisa, is this volume any better? Did this
Yes,
change? Okay. Okay, good.
What about from your standpoint, Kim?
Yep, you're good, Luke.
Okay. I don't know what that was, but all right. Okay, and let me just try to share the screen again in a way that works for me.
And this is Paul. I'm signed in as DPD Chicago. If you guys need anything, let me know. I'll stay on for like the first 15, 20 minutes to get you going. If you need something, let me know.
Thank you.
Thanks, Paul.
All right, you guys want to get started or you want to wait?
I think we can get started. So yeah, I'll just say thank you to everybody who's joined us. I know we're a few minutes late here getting going. As Patrick noted, we're going to aim for just 90 minutes. So we should wrap up by 6 o'clock. We've got a pretty full agenda, but we're excited to get everybody's feedback on what we'll be sharing. I will note I'm about to start recording the meeting here just so that we can share it with folks that weren't able to make it and any others. So I'll be doing that right now. And I think I'll go ahead and kick it over. Lisa, do you want to start us off here?
Sure. Well, thank you everyone for joining us. As Luke has stated, this is our second roundtable. We are excited to engage the community about and combine and collaborate on our efforts in the Invest Southwest corridor. You want to advance the slide for me, Luke?
Yes, ma'am.
So our agenda today, as you see here, we're going to do a little welcome and introductions, which we've done somewhat. We're going to talk about the Invest Southwest timeline, where we are now. We're also going to do a brief overview about the Corridor Project Manager, RFP. There will be a review of Englewood line regarding the Halstead Viaduct RFP. We're going to discuss potential opportunity sites. And then we have open discussion and next steps. So to keep everything moving forward, we're going to ask everybody to be muted. We're going to open up, when we call for open up for questions or comments, we'll let you know so that we can continue to be able to hear everyone and keep our presentation moving forward. Go ahead and advance.
So I think, but yeah, before we jump into this, Lisa, do we want to do some quick intros?
Oh yeah, I forgot about that just that quickly. So I'm Lisa Washington. I am the coordinator planner for the Southeast region. Luke is the project manager assigned to Englewood. Luke, you want to talk a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, hi everybody. So I'm a planner here in the Southeast region working with Lisa. As she noted, my focus is specifically in Englewood. So I'm excited to be working with you all. I think I had the chance to introduce myself to many of you at our last roundtable, but excited to keep things moving here. I'm new to the city, so I'm looking forward to learning a lot from a lot of you all and from others on my team. But my background is in urban planning and landscape architecture. I'm originally from Wisconsin, so I'm a cheesehead. You'll have to forgive me. But good to be back here in the Midwest after some time on the East Coast. Great. And
okay, other two members of our team is Patrick Brutus and Kimberly Morris. Patrick, you want to introduce yourself? He's our timekeeper for today. Patrick.
Hello, everyone. Happy to be here. I am Patrick Brutus. I am also a Southeast Regional Planner for the City of Chicago Department of Planning and Development. I'm currently assigned to Auburn Gresham. We're happy here to support the community. This is an awesome, wonderful neighborhood, and you have a lot of human resource talent in this community, and I will be keeping the time today. So awesome. Happy to be here. I know many of you, and I'm sure we're going to have a great conversation today. Thank you.
And finally, we have Kimberly Morris.
Good evening, everybody. Kimberly Morris, one of the planners for the Southeast region and DPD. Here to support my fellow planners and Luke specifically on the Englewood Roundtable. My area within the region is Bronzeville, but again, here to support the efforts here in Englewood.
Okay, let's move on. So,
Just real quick, Lisa, Jim Harbin will be joining us shortly. He's logging on right now. So
okay,
when he jumps in, let's look for him so that he can also be introduced as well.
absolutely, absolutely. Let's continue on, and then when he jumps in, we'll let him introduce himself. So since we last met, we're still in current on the phase 0, which is the mobilization operationalizing of resources in the community areas for the Invest Southwest corridor. So this is where our next phase will be actually activating and actively targeting public investments in the community areas. I'm going to move on. So as most of you guys may already know, there was an RFP that was released for a corridor project manager. Move the slide on, please.
Okay, Lisa, and I think I see Jim has joined us too.
Hi, Jim. Are you on the line? Would you like to introduce yourself to everyone?
Yes, sorry for being late, guys. Just a late meeting, but yes, Jim Harbin, Deputy Commissioner, Department of Planning and Development. Lisa, you're doing fine.
Okay, great. So we released the RFP, which is one that was done by the LISC organization for a project manager. They're being hired to help support all the priority corridors. The list will be selecting and coordinates and supports the corridor managers to all of our corridors. They will help us to move projects forward, and LISC will make sure that they will have the needed to do so. Next slide. So the entity with Invest Southwest Corridor Project Manager, entity with economic development experience. This is the criteria that they're looking for in the individual that will be hired. They're looking for an entity with economic development experience working in Englewood to achieve the goals of the Invest Southwest initiative. They want them to manage new development activities, promote and market corridor opportunities, and assist in identifying sites, projects with potential for catalytic growth. Next slide. Next. So economic development experience, including marketing and attracting investment in the neighborhood. We're looking for entities that have existing relationships with business owners and property owners on the corridor. They need to have the ability to participate in neighborhood roundtables and contribute to the consensus building around shared priorities. We are looking for experience working with city initiative programs such as the Tax Increment Finance Program, the Neighborhood Opportunity Fund, and or running an SSA. They need to have the ability to identify and execute catalytic projects to build local support. Go ahead. All right, so as you know, the RFP have been reviewed by the aldermen. They were released to the public on June 15th. Applications are due to LISC on July the 10th. I'm gonna repeat that. Applications are due to LISC July the 10th. Through the 13th and the 24th of July will be the application review period, in which we hope to come back to the roundtable with the semi-finalists of that list. On July 31st, the finalists will be named. Okay, go ahead. Next slide, please.
Hey, Miss Lisa, I raised my hand.
You raised your hand. Is that Alderman Taylor?
It is.
Yes, ma'am.
So my concern is, it looks like we're picking from the same pool of people that we already use for other stuff. And I'm concerned about y'all setting the bar so high that nobody from the community actually qualifies.
So what I would say to that is this, that the preference is an organization that will have support behind it, but we are accepting, well, I should say LISC will be accepting applications from individuals as well. And the alderman has the right to submit a letter of support behind the individual or organization that they would like to see. Ultimately, it's about getting this RFP out to your network and out to individuals who you think would be best served, who will best serve the community.
Lisa, this is Caroline from LIST. Could I add to that just because I put something slightly different in the chat? We are open to accepting individuals, but given the level of experience we're looking for and the community rootedness, I think we're most likely to support an organization in becoming the corridor manager and then supporting however the corridor manager organization chooses to spend its funds, whether it's by hiring an individual with this expertise or by leveraging it across several positions. And Alderwoman Taylor, to your question, I also, it's one of the big priorities and selection criteria is ensuring that the organization is local to the community. And so I would prioritize those that have the local experience and the local knowledge for each of those neighborhoods, or someone who maybe has more economic development experience but is coming in from the outside.
Okay. Let's move on. Go ahead, next slide. So I'm going to turn this portion over to Luke. Go ahead, Luke.
Great, thank you, Lisa. And I know we have folks from DCASE on the line as well, so I may kick it over to them to cover some elements here. But another RFP opportunity that just went live on Friday relates to the viaduct and overpass here at the Englewood line, right on Halsted, just north of 59th Street. So as some of you may know, the work for prepping both the abutments and the actual steel span of that viaduct has now been completed. And so the prep work, the cleaning, the remediation that needed to happen to create the kind of base for this project is now complete. And we're moving on now to the exciting part, which is the RFP for an artist to be involved in creating what is being termed as the Halsted Gateway, but is really just an opportunity for mural work on the abutments and kind of an application, artistic application on the actual steel span itself. So this is a DCASE and DPD collaboration. Obviously, DCASE has been instrumental in crafting that RFP. The RFP was, as I mentioned, released on Friday. It's now open and on the DCASE website. The deadline for replying is July 12th. After that, finalists will be selected the first week of August. At that point, there will be community engagement and design development. So the intention is to select a handful of finalists, and then those finalists will be able to present their proposals to the community more broadly. We can do some engagement on trying to figure out, okay, now that we have a short list of folks who are capable and qualified and can do this work, what does the community think about the various proposals? And so that takes us through the month of August. And as we get into the first week of September, that's the opportunity for the review team to actually select a finalist based on some of that feedback from you all and the rest of the community, as well as their general qualifications and their proposal. So that lets us go from September through the end of October, actually doing the final design and the engagement and installation, involved with that. So the details are, $1,000 honorariums to the finalists that are selected, and then when the actual winner is selected, it's a $65,000 commission that covers the cost of, the cost of doing the work will be part of that commission.
So Lydia, I know you're on the line. Do you want to have anything to say about the Halsted Gateway RFP?
Great question.
Sure, it sounded like there was a question. So if someone wants to float that, and then I can just address everyone for a second.
Was there a question?
Is there a question?
Okay. Okay. No, I think, Luke, thank you for the summary. Hi, everyone. My name's Lydia Ross. I'm the Director of Public Art at DCASE, and I'm on the line with my colleague, Nathan Mason, who will be the project manager for this. As Lisa and Luke mentioned, we're working in close collaboration with DPD, as well as all of you to right now really get the word out to local artists or artist teams. We really are prioritizing folks who are embedded in the community already. It's a great opportunity to address both the mural or both the walls of the viaduct and the bridge span to make a real statement piece that is welcoming folks to that part of Englewood. So we thank you in advance for your help in getting the word out, and we'll have more to say about what that process of selection will look like, as well as planning for community engagement with our finalists so that there are multiple kind of touch points along the way with a broad range of community stakeholders before a final artist or team is selected.
So there is a hand, Alderman Lopez has his hand raised. Alderman?
Good afternoon, everyone. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
So I have a couple questions, and I know you've got an agenda, but I'm just going to dive right in it if you don't mind. This roundtable is supposed to be a collaborative discussion, right?
Yes, sir.
City. So where was this roundtable in choosing this viaduct for this project?
This project actually, we started talking about this viaduct early on before the roundtables were established. We have briefed the alderman in which the viaduct is located regarding this. So she was very much aware of what was happening with this viaduct.
Which alderman is that, Ms. Washington?
Alderman Coleman.
So
Luke, in our last briefing, did we not talk about this viaduct as well with the alderman? I think Alderman Lopez, you weren't available.
Yeah, I believe we talked about this, and this is coming from, correct me if I'm wrong, folks, but this is coming from some of the recommendations of the Englewood line plan as well, right? So
Right.
The overall plan for converting, you know, the rail line,
Englewood Trail.
the Englewood Trail, right? Converting the line to.
So I'm going to get back to my original question, if you don't mind. Where was the roundtable collaboration for moving forward on this? If you said this was a project before the roundtable,
It started.
you're trying to put it as part of Invest Southwest, and it would only stand to reason that this should have been a group discussion. Because if I remember correctly, and I'm sure Jim Harbin and others will remember, the concerns about indiscriminately doing art at the city's discretion and not the neighborhood's discretion, wiping out murals and things of that nature, not knowing the historical significance of what you were clearing out in advance of what you were trying to put in, was a major concern of mine from the very beginning, not just in this corridor, but in other corridors. So I just want to make sure that that when you say something like, well, we had this in the works before we started Invest Southwest, but now we're here.
Perhaps I'm mistaken. I misspoke. We have talked with groups out there regarding this. And as Luke stated, this was a part of the Englewood Trail project. This is not something new. This is not something that we just sprung up on the community. And before the murals were removed, it was an issue of remediating that viaduct. This was not just something was to do something new. We actually had to remediate the viaduct to make it safe to move forward.
Yeah, and let me just jump in and you know, Alderman, your point is well taken. You know, that's why I just think you know, we just need to be cognizant that this platform is in place in order to address issues like that moving forward. But your point is well taken. We think there should be some transparency in terms of when we decide which projects are done, and we want to utilize this platform to do that moving forward.
Well, and I appreciate that, Jim. And you know, not everyone here's been on as multiple calls as I have with you, but you and some of my colleagues know that that's been a big issue for me with regards to, you know, we have these roundtables, we have that wonderful circle of you know, electeds, community, administration, and we're all supposed to be in the middle somewhere. But, you know, if we're not even starting on the right foot with what, you know, what's truly transparent and the neighborhoods being engaged and community being engaged, not just recycling an old plan, but doing something transformative, you know, I'm worried about that. And I'm going to say the same thing, so I'm going to try and stay to the end, but I want to make sure also that members of the corridor are included in this group. Because we've seen, as we did on New City with Alderman Taylor, we had a big discussion and nobody from the corridor was in the room. So I want to make sure that we don't, you know, lose sight of that fact, particularly as we're welcoming someone from Wisconsin to know what Englewood's supposed to be like.
Yeah, and your point was well taken then, as it is now, as we continue to move on. And this is the second one we've done for Englewood so far. But we want this to evolve to that platform where it has true engagement of true stakeholders, which includes the small businesses on the corridor. So your point again is well taken, Alderman. Did Alderman Taylor have something to say as well? I don't want to make sure we didn't cut her off.
I just wanted to jump in because I was asking a question on the chat. Very similar to what Alderman Lopez is saying. The review process for the corridor managers are only going to be done by LISC and DPD. Is it a reason why the roundtable wouldn't have any conversation or collaborative feedback around the needs for the corridor manager?
Yeah, personally, Aisha, that's a great question. I think it's important that this group does have that type of impact. What we want that corridor manager to possess is the ability to communicate at a number of levels, including community, including elected officials, and including the city. And we need it to be a consensus so that that communication is open and transparent.
And as stated earlier, we will be bringing the semifinalists back to the roundtable so that comment can be received on the semifinalists.
I was referring to the corridor manager. Is that the same idea?
Same thing. They're going to be, right, all the applications will be reviewed, and then a list of semifinalists will be put together, and those semifinalists will come back to the roundtable.
So it will be just reviewed by DPD and LISC. It's no opportunity for collaboration on the review of RFPs received by the corridor manager.
What I'm saying is that the semifinalist list will be an opportunity for feedback and collaborations on who's the best out of those who made the semifinalist list.
Right. So to put a finer point on it, I think, you know, DPD and LISC will kind of create that short list, the semifinalist list, right? So that we're making sure that we're meeting all the minimum qualifications that it's being looked for in that position, in that entity, and then that list can be brought back to the roundtable to get everyone's feedback on. Once we say, okay, these are the candidates who we think can do the work, let's talk about the benefits of each of those groups that they can bring.
Does that answer your question, Aisha?
Possible.
Okay. Okay.
And I do think I see Mr. Seal's hand raised as well. Did you want to jump in here?
Yeah, I did. I just wanted to chime in about the Halsted Viaduct and the history and why that space was chosen, because we've been activating that space, activating plans. So it's not something that's coming from the top down, just for a note of clarification. And we've been talking with the city about a process, because we had put the mural there, Grow Greater Englewood, sponsored that mural that was removed. The city did reach out and communicate that they had to remove the mural because they were trying to start to remediate and start to think about activating parts of the trail. That space on 58th and Halsted is where we've been doing our marketplace, and we have been advocating for that to be the open space, gathering space as well for the last several years. So I think there's an opportunity, in particular, we've talked about this art piece around that emerging from the community. That is what we're advocating for. We want to see the artists that have been curating under the spaces in all this in-between time while folks are trying to figure stuff out, community is working.
Yeah.
So let's just be clear that You know, we're all trying to get on the same page, so nobody coming at each other's throats in that way. But we just need to be clear that the community has said what they wanted to see happen, and we're still slowly getting to that space. So I just want to make sure that we're clear about that, and I'm hopeful that this process, this table that's created, that the community voice does have the last say in terms of choosing what they want to see there and who we're also going to be employing in our communities. I just wanted to just go on record to say that, make sure y'all knew where we were coming from.
Thank you, Mr. Seals.
LA, I just have to say I'm offended by that language.
Okay, Ray, we got to catch up.
Me of all people, right?
Right, sugar, honey, iced tea. Sugar, honey, iced tea. It's after 4 o'clock.
Okay, Luke, want to talk about potential opportunity sites?
Yeah. So we want to move on here to potential opportunity sites, and we really want to stress the word potential, right? So these are sites within the corridor that have been identified by DPD as, again, sites that are worthy of continued investigation, sites where we see potential opportunity to help revitalize the corridor through redevelopment. So some of these are city-owned parcels that are sitting vacant and could be, moved forward via an RFP. And in fact, we'll go over a few of these today that we actually are in the works of producing an RFP to move some of these sites forward. Some of the sites are a combination of privately and publicly held land. So those may move forward with an RFP if land assembly can be done, or they may just be sites where we provide other resources and assistance. And then finally, there might be sites there are sites on here that are completely privately owned. They may be vacant. They may actually have buildings on them that are also vacant at the time. And so these are sites that we see, again, where the city can participate with assistance of some kind, whether that be through TIF, through NOF, through other programs, but might not be through an RFP process. So this is high level. We wanted to get these in front of you, get your all's thoughts, make sure we're not missing any, make sure we're not missing any underlying understanding of these sites. And there will be more to come on these, which I'll go over in a moment as well.
So just to piggyback on what Luke is saying, so we chose these sites, or we're looking at these sites because we think they could be catalytic to the community and help build and spur other developments.
That's right. So these, this isn't a comprehensive listing of every vacant or city-owned parcel within the corridor. It's really what we see as kind of the big sites that we could sink our teeth into and can make a big change that could then spur other development through other means. So here's the map of the corridor. Again, we've got Halsted running north-south, 63rd, and we're running from about 59th Street in the north down to 66th in the south, and from Wallace in the east over to Loomis in the west. So this is kind of showing you a mapping of the corridor, and what you see here highlighted in blue are these sites. And I've got the addresses listed here, and I'm going to step through each one with just a quick kind of Google Street image of each of those, and we can chat about them in brief. So number one here, this is on the north end of Halsted, right up by 59th, on the east side of the road. So this image is actually looking south. This is a vacant parcel, city-owned. We see an opportunity here. Again, no plans in the works right now for this, but we know that this could be a potential site where new development could occur. These next three sites, numbers 2, 3, and 4, are essentially what's called Englewood Square Phase 2, right? So if I zoom back to the map quickly here, 2, 3, and 4 here are the sites north of and west of the existing Englewood Square development. This includes the historic firehouse. So if I zoom back forward, apologies for the flipping. Here's site number 2. This would be north of north of the WIC building, north of the Whole Foods, a vacant parcel. It's actually two separate lots that are combined as one site. Here we see site number 3. This is the historic firehouse and the land surrounding it. And here we see site number 4. This is looking from 63rd North. So that's the back of the villa and the other shops there in the shopping center. So these 3 sites are actually, we see as kind of the first domino in this catalytic movement. So we're in the process of preparing an RFP for those 3 sites, and there's more to come on that in terms of engagement with you all. I think you've all received an invite for next week, next Monday, and we'll talk about that a little bit later. But these 3 are what we see as really the next big step, and so you know, the RFP is our way of moving that forward. Across the street, south side of the street, we've got the old Park National Bank building and the site associated with that. We have on Halsted the vacant building here where the old villa was, as well as the vacant land to the north of that site. So right at the corner of 63rd and Halsted. South of that, the vacant parcel here is actually Kennedy King land, which again, as we're talking about opportunity sites, we just recognize this as a potential catalytic development. It's not city-owned land, but working with Kennedy King, what could we collectively kind of envision as what's going here, and you know, more conversations to come on that for sure. As we move west along 63rd, so here the camera is essentially in 63rd, and we're looking to the southwest. Here we have the vacant parcel at 1101. This is actually a combination of city and privately owned land. So to turn this into a potential development site, you know, a lot of conversation still needs to happen, but we just wanted to make sure that, you know, it's close to the actual intersection of 63rd and Halsted, and it could really be a transformative opportunity. As we move further to the west, here we are.
May I interrupt? There's a question in the chat. There's some questions regarding criteria and selection.
I don't see it here.
MJ?
Yes, here, MJ, Teamwork Englewood. Yeah, I was just wondering, you use the term catalytic and transformative. I was just wondering, like, have you all released or be willing to share your criteria for site selection for potential sites? Because I'm seeing a lot of vacant lots, which seems to be an interest, but I'm just trying to understand you all priority versus infill development, local redevelopment initiatives, and things like that. So I'm interested in the criteria for the selection of these sites.
Sure. Yeah, I would love to just address that very quickly, Michael. The simple answer is this is city owned, and it is easy for us to, particularly the earlier sites that we looked at, it's easier for us to engage potential development opportunities once they're identified because we own it. We can certainly make it easier for acquisition. We've got incentives that we can add to the process. You know, this is the low-hanging fruit. You know, we certainly believe that there's more opportunities out there, but because we own it, this is, I'm sorry?
Honeysuckle, elderflower, lindenflower, all that.
I think someone might need to.
Oh, okay. But I hope that answers your question, Michael.
It does. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, and thank you, Jim. And I think again, to clarify, you know, sites like this one, which aren't entirely city-owned, do provide that kind of, as Jim phrased it, low-hanging fruit, right? These are large sites which could be, you know, which could benefit from the focus of a bunch of different coordinated efforts. That doesn't mean that there aren't other opportunities in the corridor, right? It doesn't mean that, you know, one-off parcels that may be city-owned or maybe privately owned or a vacant building here or there. By all means, those are sites we want to look at as well. It's just a way for us to prioritize. And so we're starting with what we think are, you know, as Jim put it, the easiest to tackle because they're city-owned, and for the ones that aren't city-owned, the ones that we think would make the biggest impact, right? Because it's the largest assembly of land, or it's in a prime location. For example, if I just back up a second here, you know, this parcel here, we're right at the corner of 63rd and Halsted. So it's not publicly owned. It's not entirely vacant. You know, there's an existing building there that would need to be part of any discussion, but it's right at the corner. And so it could be really, again, when we talk about transformative catalytic, what we're talking about are where can we seed these efforts to then spur additional development that maybe is managed outside of a city process, right? If we can get some energy going in some of these sites, you know, and we can connect people to other resources, what can be done coming out of the community itself in some of these other sites. So I hope that answers some of that.
And let me just also state that the list of potential opportunity sites is not listed by priority. It's just, we just numbered them. So they're not listed by priority. We're talking to you guys to help set that priority.
That's right. That's right. They're numbered essentially geographically. We snaked around the map and we numbered 1 to 11. So just moving forward here. So this is what we're calling opportunity site number 9. This is 1300 block here, again on the south side of 63rd, vacant city-owned land. It's entirely city-owned. We could see this being a great opportunity. It's a little further from the Halsted intersection, but we think it's still a great opportunity. Apologies, my photo has not updated here. This is the block just west of the photo you see here is actually number 9. Apologies for this. Number 10 is the block just west. It looks very similar. It's a completely vacant block face. The only difference is it's technically in the 7th District Police Plan Development. It is called out in their future development plans as future parking. And so right now it's not being used for that. And so we're flagging it as somewhere to start the conversation with you all and with the 7th District to see what the actual future of that site wants to be. So apologies for the photo glitch there. Here we go. So that was site 10 with the incorrect photo, apologies. And site 11, this is Woods Academy. I don't think I need to introduce it to most of you. Of course, I think the one thing I'll note is, as you might have caught on the map early on, technically this is outside of our corridor, but it's such a big opportunity and an important site. We know it's a very important site that we wanted to make sure we flagged it with all of you as a potential opportunity site. So what I'll say about Woods Academy is we know many of you on the phone now have been involved in the Go Green on Racine effort as you all are pushing towards the Chicago Prize. And as I understand it, the last round of finalist applications went out a couple of weeks ago. And so the Go Green team has a very strong proposal for this site. Really something that coming out of the community for the community, and so we see a lot of traction potentially with that. But at the moment, it is CPS property, and so as we look to turn this into something that is a community benefit development, we need to think through what that process is and how DPD fits into that. And we know that there are other interested parties in the property as well. And so we know there will be plenty of engagement on this site, but we do want to flag it knowing how important it is and the fact that it is touching our corridor even though it's not directly in it. So those are the sites that we've identified at the moment. I think in a bit here, I think we can open it up to understand if we're missing anything, if there's sites on that list that you all may have some immediate thoughts about. But here what we wanted to do was flag what we're convening next week. Now this is not a roundtable session next week, but we hope that all of you, or most of you at least, will be able to join us. Almost same time, same place. We'll be aiming for 5 to 6:30 here on Zoom again. You all should have received not a direct invite, but a registration link. And the registration for this is really important for us because as we start to dive deeper into learning about these sites and envisioning what we could see on those sites in the future, we want to make sure we know who we're collaborating with. So we just wanted to collect a little information from folks who are registering, you know, your name, whether you're a resident or not, and you know, which community group you may be involved in. Sorry, I'm getting a little feedback. I'm not sure if there's somebody who's not on mute. But I hope everyone can hear me. So that's the logistics. Next week, please use the registration link to sign up. You'll need to do that before the meeting. And then once you register, you'll receive an actual invite to the meeting. Once the meeting starts, if you haven't registered, it's just the way that the Zoom meeting works. I don't think you'll be able to join. You might be able to get an invite forwarded from someone else, but it would have very limited functionality. So please do use the registration link, and feel free to forward that registration link to others that you think would be very interested in this conversation. The registration link is not unique. You can forward that, others can use it to register for themselves. So that's the logistics. What is this thing? What is next Monday? Next Monday is a visioning session for these sites. What we've had the opportunity to do is work with a group of volunteer consultants from the Chicago Central Area Committee. For those of you who haven't worked with those folks before, that is a membership association of designers, developers, and institutional leaders that are focused not just on the central area of, not just downtown, but are focused on Chicago more broadly. And so we've had the opportunity over the last month or so to be engaged with them on a volunteer basis to just help us prepare some of the research and analysis and thinking on market analysis, on massing studies, just as we start to test what could be in these sites. They're helping us with that. And so next week is our opportunity to get you all in a virtual room, if not a physical room, in a room with those folks from CCAC, from our team that's working with us, to start talking about what we would see in terms of uses on these sites, what we would see in terms of infrastructure, in terms of density. And so we'll be talking about the corridor at large. We'll be talking about all the 11 sites we just mentioned, but we'll have a very specific focus as well. I mean, we'll talk about all of them, but we'll zoom in to what we numbered as sites 2, 3, and 4. Again, that's Englewood Square Phase 2, the parcels including the firehouse surrounding the Whole Foods and the shopping center there at Englewood Square. And the reason for the focus on that is we'll be launching an RFP a little later this summer to actually get some development proposals for that site. So as we launch the RFP, we want to make sure that next week's workshop is our chance it's our first chance to touch base with you all on what uses and what density, basically what do we want to put in the RFP to ask for. And we want really as wide a menu as possible in that RFP, so that we can get a series of responses back. So our first touch point will be that workshop next week, and our next touch point would be the following roundtable. And so that's what we're aiming to do. I know it's kind of spit out a mouthful right there, but that's the opportunity sites, potential opportunity sites, and then next week we really get to dive into those more. So if you have very specific questions this week, we'll try to answer them, but really next week will be when we get to dive into those 11 sites and thinking about the corridor more broadly. So our next agenda item is actually just an open discussion. So rather than take questions on those right now, I think I'll just kick over to our open discussion questions, which I think will...
Before you get started on that,
yes.
Just a reminder, July the 12th is the deadline for application for the D case. Am I correct?
Can
you
go back?
That's correct.
Okay.
Yes, thank you.
July 13th is the deadline for the corridor project manager. Let's also say that by morning of June 29th, you must register for that workshop. So I just want to highlight that, and I will highlight it again before we end this call. Go ahead.
Thanks, Lisa. Okay.
Luke, this is Alderman Coleman. I want to just revisit Grenville T. Wood School.
Yeah.
Now, in the prior meeting with you and Lisa, and I believe Jim, we had discussed Green on Racine and the reentry. And can we be more specific, or just in all transparency, what other interested parties were there for Granville T. Woods? Because I think Rami and Asia and Cecile are all on the line. I don't see all the participants right now, but I just want to revisit that and see who else, because the plan has been set. It's a great plan. As you all know, I'm very supportive of the Green on Racine, but if no one has really had an interest in Granville Woods, why all of a sudden now is there an interest, and who is the interested parties?
Yeah, I'm happy to tackle that. Jim, I don't know if you want to jump in, but I'm happy to take it.
Jim, are you there?
I think you.
Yeah. Go ahead, Luke. You're fine.
Great.
Yeah.
So Woods Academy has been identified by the Museum of Contemporary Art as a potential one of I think 6 locations that they've shortlisted for a facility that would include 2 major components. One would be a public-facing 5,000 to 10,000 square feet, community-driven. It could be arts workforce training was part of it, but also just like an arts community center. So that would be the smaller of the square footage components. The larger portion is actually for the storage of material for the MCA. So artwork and other material that they're storing would be part of that. Now, obviously, that's a use that it's an institutional use, but it's not a particularly active one. There's 5,000 to 10,000 square feet that could be activated, but there's a bulk of it would be a little bit less activated. And so this is one of 6 sites that they're looking at, and we've raised to them the fact that Go Green has a lot of community support. It has, it already has your letter of support, Alderman, and is a Chicago Prize finalist. And so we're, when we say that there's other interest, I do want to be clear, it's not that there's other interest and we are internally gauging whether or not we want to go direction A or direction B. We're just raising that to say we may need to bring both, and if there are any other proposals to the group, to make sure that everybody has a chance to weigh in on what the possibilities are and what they think is the right way forward.
And again, we have not reviewed anything with MCA.
That's right.
And I just want to emphasize the point that everyone is aware of Go Green Racine. Everyone is aware of the Chicago Prize, them being you guys being a Chicago Prize semifinalist, and we are in it to win it with you guys.
Yeah.
That's the best way I can say that.
And I think the other thing to just note again is at the moment, this is CPS property that has not been conveyed to DPD.
Right.
So
we do not own it.
Right. And so in order for us to enter into any kind of redevelopment agreement with Go Green or anyone else, we need to move through that process as well.
Right.
So no, but Alderman Coleman, thank you for asking that question. Yeah, it is important to know, what the other proposals have been, and then we do want to bring, and again, we'll be bringing this before everybody in one of these roundtable settings as well after we do a little bit more coordination with CPS. I do just want to move back again to our broader questions. Question number 1, in terms of prioritizing the potential opportunity sites we shared with you, we'd love to get your all's thoughts on the sites that we've shared. Are we, again, we already know the Englewood Square Phase 2 sites are going to be we'll be creating an RFP for those. What else is there that you all think is kind of the low-hanging fruit? What needs to be done first? Is there anything we're missing? Is there anything that we've listed, any sites that we've listed that you all think maybe we should take another look at before we pursue that?
And I'm sorry to interrupt, Luke, but I just want to put this on record. It comes from Sanaa. They've already raised $1 million toward the regenerator.
Yes.
And so I just wanted that to be recorded, that they've done that so far.
Yes, thank you.
Also, with Luke asking that first question about potential, if there are any other potential opportunity sites along the corridor, we would like to also hear what would you like to see? What should be some of the end users? What are some of the amenities that you would like to see? We got a good list from the aldermen. We just want you guys to just, you know, give us some more feedback.
So I think I see Alderman Lopez's hand up. Alderman Lopez, yeah.
Thank you. So the same thing that I proposed in back of the yards is a new city corridor with Alderman Taylor. I'm going to propose for you guys here in this one is that it's absolutely critical to get the businesses involved, particularly when you're seeing that you're trying to reconstruct a corridor in which many of them have already built their businesses and invested their own personal blood, sweat, and tears without government assistance, by and large. So we can't discount them. Two, I think that the discussion about city lots and city-owned properties really has to be more alderman focused, because it's going to be those aldermen, particularly Alderman, I believe it's Coleman, who I think has the lion's share along with Alderman Taylor, if I'm not mistaken, who are the ones that are going to need to do the approvals for sales, approvals for zoning, and things of that nature. And, you know, Jim, I know I'm like a broken record on this, but, you know, I'd hate to go through all this effort to recruit businesses, to recruit things to come, only to find out that the local aldermen or neighboring communities not going to be in support of it. Because then it's just going to be a lost opportunity, and more importantly, a waste of money in this endeavor. If the aldermen aren't there from the very beginning, as opposed to just being the end-all sign-off at the end.
Yeah, Alderman, just to put a final point on what you just said, I couldn't agree with you more. That's why we got you here. Actually, you know, this is just a wonderful turnout. I know Felicia Felicia Young is usually on the call. I don't see her on the call now, but we certainly want the Englewood Chamber and the businesses that are along the corridor to participate in this. This is an open forum. And if there are people who are not here that should be, please make them aware. We're doing every effort we can to get the word out. And you're right, this is the platform that we're going to use to execute. So you're right, this is the time for everybody who needs to be at the table, should be at the table now. So I couldn't agree with you more.
Great. I do see, I think, some other hands popping up here. I think I saw Bruce, Mr. Montgomery, your hand popped up. And you may still be on mute. Bruce, are you with us?
He may still be muted.
Okay, we can come, Bruce, we can come back to you. I do also see Alderwoman Taylor's hand.
Okay, I am.
Okay,
and everybody. So at any rate, the question was asked about other uses. And I'm particularly concerned that a lot of the conversation seems to be heavy-handed towards retail. And there is a desperate need in many of our communities to have other services. The fastest growing segment of business opportunities and people creating jobs is in the services arena and professional services as well. Architects, engineers, creatives people, photographers, people in technology arenas. And so there is a desperate need in our community and many communities on the south and the west sides for spaces that would be supportive of these kinds of workers, people that need access to the internet, people that need open plan floor spaces. So I know we have a lot of attention to what I would call ground floor retail. And in my thought is some of that is oversubscribed. We need a range of spaces, first and second floor, and perhaps vertical, where we could have more opportunity for there to be support for many, many other types of businesses that have the potential of growing rapidly in our community. If you look at the greater Englewood area, there is a ton of people working from home that are creative professionals. And these businesses, the next stage for them is to expand into additional facilities that can add staff and grow and scale even more. So again, I'd like to see these conversations be more than just about ground floor retail, but about flexible spaces that could go vertical as well and provide office and creative mixed use space for the creative professionals and service professionals we have in our community already.
That's great. No, thank you. That's an important distinction, and we certainly don't want to communicate that retail is by any means the focus of what we're trying to do. So thank you for making I think those really good points. I do just want to comment. I think if everyone could just jump on mute if you want.
Alderman Taylor has her hand raised.
Okay, we're hearing some background noise. And yeah, Alderman Taylor, go ahead.
I just want to reiterate the conversation around people who are not on Zoom, who cannot have access to this platform. Let's not leaving those folks out and have a real conversation about how to get them engaged. And I want to make sure that we not only just have community groups at the table, that we have some folks who lived in the community for 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60 years, yes, who are able to come to this platform. And to Alderman Lopez's point, we need to look at what's kind of already been done. Because if I'm not mistaken, Englewood has been in a planning process for some years. Am I correct, Alderwoman Coleman? And so maybe it's you all looking at those plans, because I'm trying to figure out if they've already agreed to the plan, what's the backdrop now, which is problematic for me, because then why even have people go through a process that you tell them that you agree to, and now you're saying, oh, we got to back up and do something different. And so I don't have that problem right now, but I wouldn't want some people that I've had a conversation with and I supported to now say, you know what, we got to wait. Seems like there's something else in play, and maybe there's not, but I hope that you all are transparent about it.
Yeah, Alderman Taylor, your point is duly taken. We, on the Zoom call, first of all, we welcome anybody to forward the invitation, and we can actually look at the invitation. There is an opportunity to actually dial in. You don't have to click on the link, you can actually dial in. And so the plans were reviewed when we did our first Invest Southwest rollout. There was an exercise done. So we're just reconfirming what we've heard, what was done. One of the great things about Englewood is that they have had stakeholders working out there for decades, and they know the community. But as you are aware, the city has to still go through their community engagement process. We still have to go back and reconfirm. But we look forward to moving the plans that the community and the aldermen have been working on for years. We look forward to working with you guys and moving these things forward.
I just want to announce that we have 30 minutes left on this call, and we have 30 minutes left.
Thanks, Patrick.
Thank you, Patrick.
If I might just say, in response to that, Lisa, that I think it was Bruce in our last meeting together emphasized why we have so much institutional knowledge in the neighborhood. Are we focusing on outsiders trying to build us back up in Englewood? And I think we've never gotten to the answer to that. And I think that that's a big concern that has been vocalized now twice in these calls. And I would hope that we find a way so that, you know, to Alderman Taylor's point, I've seen the Englewood neighborhood plans for every decade going back to the 1990s, the zeros, the tens. You know, we can't keep rebuilding the same thing. And I think it would be truly a loss for groups like Rage, like Iman, like Growing Home, like Grow Greater Englewood, like all of them that we know that have been working, Teamwork Englewood, Imagine Englewood. I mean, the list goes on. But if we're just going to, try to reinvent the same wheel over and over again, we're just spinning. I mean, we'll just be spinning in circles, and it'll be another decade. So hopefully we find a way to incorporate that knowledge in a way that's beneficial and respected, so that we know that it's not just some, plan to gentrify the neighborhood, because I'm sure that's going to be what everyone's thinking this is going to be about.
Thank you, Alderman.
Yeah, I think that point is well taken. And I think just to put a finer point on that, this, we aren't building a plan here, right? We're building off of plans that have happened, but this is a group that's focused on implementation. And so what that means is responding to the recommendations that have come out of, as decades of previous quality of life plans, some of which, we need to reassess the recommendations, make sure that they're pointed in the right direction. Things update as the market changes. The next question on our agenda is about what's been going on for the last 4 months, between COVID and the civil unrest. And so we recognize that there are acute things that change that make our recommendations need updating, and there are also more broader trend changes that maybe something that was called out in a plan a few years ago has shifted. And so we want to make sure that we're bringing that to everybody and updating as needed, but not starting at square one. So I think that's a great point. Just to call on some other folks here who have their hands up. Nate, I see Nate's got his hand up. Do you want to jump in?
Hey, good afternoon. Nate Ward, Kenny King College, Community Relations. To Alderman Lopez's point, my question is around the RFP process. And as we say, investing in back in Englewood, what is the commitment from the process? I'm not going to say the city, but from the whole process to make sure that persons of color make sure they are actually doing the work. So, and from the development down to the actual getting of the jobs, because we have to invest in the people as we invest in the community. And so, from the developer, we do RFPs. What language in the RFP will guarantee that people from the community are going to get employment, and also what other opportunities are there? Kenny King has a training program to assist them in getting prepared for the jobs.
Yeah, I would love to jump on that, Nate. What a beautiful question. So you're right. Part of this process is going to engage designers and architects. And we're lucky enough to have this thing really get started with some pro bono work, but only under the condition that that pro bono work was inclusive of people of color who lived in the community and have the same type of background and can learn from the process. We're not only doing this in this particular region in this node, we're doing this in 12 other areas of the city as the initial launch of Invest South and West, looking to do 20 more before we're done. And this is going to be a remarkable opportunity for people of color, young men and women, to literally be hands on the ground, feet on the ground, hands dirty, figuring out how this stuff works. And we would love to work with you. If you've got a connective tissue to help us connect to those young men and women, we're going to put them in front of people who not only can help them get that much needed experience, but expose them to those firms that are doing this work citywide. So you just hit a big nail on the head. Part of this process is building people as well. We want to make sure that people not only understand what we're doing, but how to do it. I couldn't echo that louder. Thank you for that question.
And I hear your response and I applaud your response, but what I'm saying though, in this RFP process, how are we ensuring that people of color have huge participation in this project, not just a minority set aside, but huge participation?
Yeah, and I'm sorry, I didn't answer that part of your question. By being intentional. So we need to write that RFP that rewards people of color who respond. That's pretty simple. And we want to use this platform to create that language. And not just language we want you, but language in which designers, developers all understand. There's going to be a reward system to have people of color participate, period. So you are hitting the nail right on the head. It is not just about looking at the sites and what we can do with them. It's about the people who are going to help build it and create it. I would love to circle back with you, and when we get an opportunity, I'm going to make sure we connect, because if you got a group of young men and women who are studying this type of work, we want to connect with them like now.
Yeah, yeah, and we can, and as Jim alluded to, you know, that's why we want to come back again. We're coming back to you all twice before we issue that RFP. We have the workshop next week, and we have the roundtable, the July roundtable after that. And so we want to make sure we touch on all of that. And, you know, we won't be able to hammer out all the details on a call like this, but we can follow up and we can send you the language that we have and say, are we headed in the right direction? What are we missing? And so I think that there's an opportunity to really refine that together over the next month.
And Nate, yeah, and I didn't mean to cut you off, Luke, but Nate, if you can make sure your students connect to that call, we're going to do another call just like it for Auburn Gresham. They are welcome to connect to that call. We're going to do another call just like it in Austin. We would welcome if they connected to that call as well.
Right, right. Okay, great. I think I see Growing Home hand is up.
Hi, everybody. This is Danielle Perry, the Executive Director for Growing Home. Thanks for including us. I appreciate it. I was going to echo what Nate said about obviously Growing Home is a job training program, and we advocate for jobs in this community. So I felt like it was important to speak up, and not just, I actually wasn't going to talk a lot about just hiring people in regards to the building, but your original question, I think, to us was what like number opportunity were we most interested in and what we want to see. So I wanted to speak up about that. I am not an urban planner, but I did want to say that if I would love to see included the number one property as an opportunity to maybe be a catalyst for economic development on 59th Street. I'm not saying it should be a priority or be first, but I wonder if in urban planning, do you ever do one opportunity that will lead to more? And in my thoughts, I think 63rd Street and continuing to grow that is smart, but maybe making sure that the one closest to 59th does get added in there ensures that there's a catalyst for movement in that direction. And so I wanted to throw that out there. And I wanted to say, in regards to what would go on these different opportunities, anything that would produce jobs is what I was gonna say. I think having a priority of jobs is really important, not just generally, but especially in this moment. So those are my two tidbits to answer your question. And thanks again for the opportunity.
Yes, thank you. And thank you for those comments. I think as folks who have been involved in this Invest Southwest initiative from the beginning will note, you know, there are so many corridors that could have been selected, right? And so 59th as a corridor more broadly is certainly not forgotten in this. And I think the fact that the corridor as identified, the fact that that does go up and grab at least one intersection on 59th, to your point, Danielle, I think does allow for site number one to be a catalyst, not just in the identified corridor, but stretching east and west along 59th as well. So I think that that's a good point. I think I see MJ has his hand up as well.
Yeah, I wanted to echo what Danielle was saying, as well as Alderman Lopez. I think for me, this is just a point of order. As folks are suggesting things, could a note or some kind of documentation be sent back? Because I'm really harping on how do we make sure we have an equitable criteria. You all mentioned visions and goals, but I think like a criteria to complement the market analysis you all have commissioned, because it is important to understand that Englewood in public investment is actually to shape a market. So the market analysis most likely will not show viable businesses that fit the desires of the local business, like complementary desires of local business owners nor residents. So we have to be very intentional about an additional set of criteria that says things like, we want transformative jobs that pay living wages. How do we attract and transform the physical environment to have industry that fit that, right? So I'm very interested in how can we use these calls to collaboratively create a criteria that's focused on equity in a transformative future, and not just rely on like early stage boosterism that would really wouldn't help the corridor in the long term. So I'm really interested in translating these suggestions into a criteria list that people on the call can look at later and that DPD is using in some of their decision making.
Yeah, no, that's helpful. I think to your first point, my colleagues on the call are taking notes as we speak, and those will be shared back out with the group in short order. So we'll definitely get an opportunity to share with you all what the conversation from today, what the takeaways have been.
Okay.
I think to your point specifically about criteria, yeah, that's definitely part of, again, as you know, we can easily fill up an hour and a half with items. And so even next week's workshop, we think that there's a lot to sink our teeth into, just in terms of what kind of development we want to be building together on these sites. And so we haven't fleshed that agenda out entirely, but I do think that most of next week will be on the physical development. But the following week, which is the roundtable, well, or it might not be the following week, but the following time we visit, which will be the roundtable, will be our opportunity to say, okay, this is what we heard in the workshop. This is how we're taking that forward. And this is, these are the requirements that we're asking in the RFP for physical development. And now let's talk about the criteria. How are we going to help select the developers themselves? What recommendations or what requirements are we going to have for them in terms of who their contractors are, who their designers are? When we talk, within the physical development itself, we may say, it needs to be office commercial development. What does that mean? What kind of commercial development? What kind of jobs are we looking at? So I think that there's the opportunity to craft those criteria together, and I think we definitely will be sharing that. The only caveat I want to note is the RFP we're talking about, again, based on the map we're looking at here, is for sites 2, 3, and 4. So I think in terms of criteria regarding the workforce or the developer themselves or their designers, all of those things, I think we can build for that. I do just want to make sure we're all aware and thinking about this holistically, that 2, 3, and 4 are large sites and they can do a lot, but they can't do everything for us. And so the RFP that we're building, I think we can be comprehensive in the way that we craft it, but we need to also recognize that some of these other sites might be better suited for certain uses. And so as we're building the criteria for the developer team, and as we're building the criteria for what kind of development they're proposing, the RFP covers a subset of the total opportunity sites. So there may be other avenues for us to craft those together. I think I see Cecile has her hand up.
Yes, hi Luke, hi everybody on the call. I wanted to bring up a point. I wrote it in the chat, but I wanted to offer this up for a larger discussion in case the chat questions weren't still being reiterated. But it's a piece that I talked about in our last call about the unemployment rates in the community, and also now wanting to bring into the conversation our public safety concerns and the violence in our community. So I'm asking, or I'm proposing right now, is how do we find some urgent workforce development that can be coupled with the social service organizations in the community as wraparound services for some of our population, like returning citizens, formerly incarcerated, even some of our women-headed households that are a lot of the majority of the homes that exist in Englewood, but also were the ones hit by the slow retail and service economy that we have now because of COVID. I think you guys opened this dialogue up around what are some of the things that are pivoted because of the crisis we're going through. And it's not that it's been pivoted, but it's definitely more intense. And so projects, like the Regenerator or any other potential RFPs that can happen now, we need to be thinking about how to get people working in the next couple of months. And so I know some of these projects on the map are long-term projects, but I want to put in the forefront of DPD about thinking about projects that can put people to work now. And I shared the example of the Regenerator, but even some of the physical landscaping needs that the city may need help with, or any type of innovation where we can get people to work to, one, maybe curb some of the violence in the community, but also really make a dent in the unemployment rates we're seeing from the residents in the community right now because of the crisis in the economy at this point.
Yeah, thank you. Those are really good points. I think, as you note, the RFP side of things, you know, some of these sites will be longer term development. Some I think can be turned around a little bit more quickly. But we do need to go through, you know, we need to figure out how to expedite those processes as best as we can. But there are processes in place. Your broader question about just, you know, getting folks back to work in creative and innovative ways, I think that's a good point. And I think, you know, we need to be thinking about that. And, you know, to the extent that others on the call have thoughts about that and can share with us any ideas, you know, we're all ears. But at the same time, you know, we need to be working across departments to be thinking of that as well. I think I see Alderman Lopez's hand up again as well. Alderman?
So I have a question. You know, a number of participants mentioned that there are a lot of what's up basically sounds like local covenant type deals that they want to make for this corridor, particularly as it relates, I think it was Nate who said, with regards to local hiring, and you know, and I know Cecile just mentioned it as well. So I guess my question is actually for you, Jim.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we've had discussions, I think, in this group, and then with the other one that I'm on as well, about our ability to actually create pilot programs locally to address the concerns or wishes of those involved in the corridor. So do we have any resolution on how much latitude we have for pilot programs, so that we could say, for example, if you're looking at the map site on the screen, you know, if we say that we're going to have local preference for all licensed businesses in 606, 36, and 21 zip codes, maybe, are we going to have, you know, CPS, you know, qualifiers to help get people involved, you know, or for grantees, maybe if they want to have, to Bruce's point, if you want to have somebody who's coming straight out of Kennedy King, something that they wanted, a business that they're proposing, do they get like preference for grant or idea opportunities, so that we're really building from within? How much latitude does this group have with regards to those kind of pilot programs, so that we can actually tailor this one to fit the very specific needs of the greater Englewood neighborhood?
Yeah, well, without sounding Pollyannish, Alderman, we have as much latitude.
You never.
we have as much latitude as we want. I mean, and I'm saying that to say this: we can come up with ideas, and we've seen ideas. This community comes up with beautiful ideas. We want to use this platform to put teeth on these ideas. So let's think it through. Let's spitball. Let's think through ideas that we think would work. You know, I've just sent Cecile and Nate a message. Let's talk through that. You know, it's about the details. If we put something together, then let's advocate for it. If we put something together, let's let the community know. You know, part of the roundtable process is literally us signaling that we are ready. And when I say signaling, it's not just to the community, but it's to the city, it's to philanthropic organizations, it's to the private sector. But we need to give them something to chew on. And I think we should use this platform to do just what you suggested.
Well, that's my concern, is that I want to make sure that, you know, the last thing we want to do is to have people feel like they're spinning their wheels. So if we come up with, say, a hiring plan, or as Cecile said, we come up with even a short-term plan to do, maybe start taking, you know, some of these vacant properties and doing them as pop-ups just to get them functional and get people out doing something. You know, I don't think it's, you know, we don't want, basically what I'm worried about is I don't want City Hall interference. If the neighborhood of this group, of this corridor, comes together and say, okay, these are our goals for our specific community that we have to have moving forward, which includes, you know, hiring ex-offenders, things of that nature. And then someone else downtown who shall remain anonymous says, no, that's not what my vision is.
Sure.
I want to make sure our vision is the vision, not somebody
no,
else.
that makes sense. I really believe this, Alderman, that you're going to find that you really have a partner in terms of getting something done. What I get signaled from City Hall is get something done. That's what I'm hearing ad nauseum, to the point you think you're being a broken record. You have no idea. You have no idea. I'm hearing it from the other side. Get something done. So let's use this platform to do it. Let's put some teeth behind what we're doing. Let's make sure we tee this up so we can attract the right resources in order to execute some of this visioning.
Got it.
And with that, I want to announce that we have 7 minutes remaining on the call. We should use this time for final questions and thoughts and conclusions and wrap up.
Great, thank you, Patrick. This has been incredibly helpful and productive, and we hope that you all feel the same way. Again, we regret not being able to do this in person with all of you, and we know that means, you know, to Alderwoman Taylor's earlier point, there may be folks that would otherwise participate that are not participating now. Please, use your networks, share these calls. We'll have another one in July. We want everybody to participate in whatever capacity that they can. Unfortunately, for the time being, we'll continue to do so remotely. I think, we've only got a few minutes left. If folks have thoughts here on how the events of the last few months, I know last roundtable we talked about COVID, and it's not like that's gone away. And in fact, as I'm sure all of you are seeing, we're seeing it come back in some places as well, harder than it was the last few weeks. But we also know that there's been new priorities and new shocks to the system over the last few weeks. And we know that, stores are trying to get on the mend from the unrest from a few weeks ago. Again, we've only got a few minutes left, but I do just want to see if there's anybody who has comments on that in terms of what this group can be doing to address either COVID or the unrest or the results thereof. What this group can be doing and what the work we're doing on the corridor, how that can address that. So again, only a few minutes, but would love to hear anybody's thoughts. And I don't
So if no one has any comments.
Yeah, I do.
I do.
Okay.
This is Felicia with the Chamber.
Okay. Hi, Felicia.
Hi. So definitely in terms of prioritizing, we really need to shift some priority to supporting the existing businesses that are open and functioning, as we also begin to rally around businesses that have been closed either due to COVID or specifically to the unrest and the challenges they have with just getting underwriters to come out and take a look at those properties to decide what is it that they will cover because of the substantiated damages. Secondly, I'm really concerned about the number of citations for the small businesses in the community, considering they have had almost 3 months of little to no revenue. And so if we can begin to think about how we can support them around these citations and these fines so that they can begin to focus on reopening, staying open, and being the service provider to the community that needs them. And so if we could get a bit of a reprieve from some of these citations, that would be very, very helpful. And then if we can look at how can we support them as they begin to pay these citations off, even if they were from, the beginning of March, as they, have begin to look at where their revenue streams are coming from and coming in from today and what that's going to look like for the next 6 months. It's going to take them time to get where they need to be. They have utilities that have not stopped and they still need to get those paid. They are looking at, of course, getting all of the necessary supplies that they need to continue to be in business. They just need a little bit of time. If we can find some way to help them to stay focused on staying in business for the community members that still need them here, I think that would be very, very helpful.
Yeah, Felicia, I'm sorry, Lisa. I just want to address that quick point Felicia just made. So the latter part, in terms of the fines, I'm not really familiar with what you're referring to specifically, but I would love to hear about it. I would think that there's going to be some relief from that at some point. But again, I need to know more details before I can say that emphatically. But I can say this, you know, the city just released a new fund called Together Now, which literally is an infusion of dollars to help support some of the activity that you alluded to. I don't have all of the details on that. It just got released this Saturday, but I implore you to not only go to the city's website and see what that resource is, Felicia, because I believe there's a number of small businesses, particularly in Englewood, New City, Auburn Gresham, that could really benefit from that. But I am also going to make sure I've got details in order to answer any questions that you have. But that is a relief fund that is literally set to help small businesses right now without, and I'm going to say this, without necessarily going through our traditional processes in order to get that funding.
Did you add the last slide, Luke? Were you able to add that slide about www.chicago.gov/Together Now? That is the website you would need to go to.
I don't have that. Let me share that. I can share that with the group just in an email. You'll get me with that link.
And the team has shared it with all of its members.
Okay, good.
So they are giving infrastructure grants up to $10,000 to help with repair costs. Businesses that have at least 25% revenue loss due to COVID-19 will be eligible for operational grants up to $4,000 to help cover economic loss. But you'll find detailed information on that website, and it'll also tell you which type of business can't apply, like national chains will not be able to apply for this grant.
Yeah, and Felicia, I encourage you to encourage all those businesses to apply.
We are.
Just have them apply.
Great.
And Felicia, this is Alderman Raymond Lopez. If I could just ask, what are the citations for? Because most businesses were not being cited for anything this entire time. So I'm kind of confused what they'd be getting cited for. Are we talking like public way use, buildings? What are we talking?
Many of the business owners had past citations and then COVID happened. And so some of those costs did not change for them. And so although they were in the process of paying, there's a lot of time that has elapsed. They're trying to pay that. They're trying to pay their utilities. They're just trying to catch up from not having the revenue that they would have had they been able to, you know, just get the money in and get those citations paid. So we're just talking about allowing them a little time to catch up to that.
No, I get that, but I know that most of the people who had any kind of citation before the stay-at-home and all the other orders went into effect for the city, everything's basically been on pause. So if they had like a 90-day or whatever, 120-day notice to rectify, that basically is on pause until administrative hearings kicks off again. So they should have, it should just carry over. But, you know, I'm sure any of us could, you know, ask and look into, or maybe Jim, we could kind of coordinate to see, because I've noticed that we've had a few businesses who have misinterpreted what the notice means and think that they have to pay like immediately for things going back from that they were working through in February and March, thinking that their 5 months or whatever is up because of COVID. So
maybe that's the case, because that's the call I'm getting around, oh my God, I gotta pay this, and I have, you know, all of these other things and a little revenue. So if you can
I just need a little bit more detail, Felicia. I need more detail.
If you can send any of those requests my way, and then I can coordinate with Jim, and we can get in touch with the alderman to figure out what our next steps are. And maybe it's a little one-pager FAQ thing that you can share with folks, or maybe it's just with a few individuals. So I know we're already at 6:02. I do want to respect everyone's time, but I did see Anton pop in for a quick question earlier.
No, I was just going to just end on just saying that, you know, the need in terms of post-COVID and the ongoing uprisings is that, you know, work is going to be needed. And as Cecile said, and if to be really using this format that we're putting together here to further come up with ways for even more people to find work who are from those communities to work on these public works projects. So since we don't have something that hires people at mass, at a really decent rate, there should be something that we consider, because jobs are going to be needed in this really, historic time. And that's what people need. They need work. So I think that was one more layer that I think you guys should think about and consider, maybe for all of us to consider, in terms of coming up with a framework that works to get more people back to work in these particular kind of projects.
Point well said, Anton. Yeah, I agree.
Alderman, do you have anything that you want to comment? Any of the aldermen on the call? Alderman Coleman, Taylor? Okay, well,
Thank
let's
you,
finish.
everybody. Our next steps, as I mentioned, we've got the workshop next Monday. As Lisa noted, please register that morning. The workshop will be in the afternoon at 5 p.m., but please be sure to register that morning so that you're guaranteed a link being generated, and share that registration link with your networks. We're happy to see other folks join us. The corridor manager RFP, as we've noted, is moving forward. We will be back in touch with all of you once we are down to semifinalists, and we can share that back with the group. We'll continue our due diligence on our opportunity sites. That will come from what comes out of next week and our own kind of research in the background. And then right now we're aiming for the next roundtable on July 13th. And so that's another Monday. And so that'll give us time to turn around some of the elements from the workshop. And I'm sure we'll have other agenda items not related to the opportunity sites as well.
And let me add one more deadline. That Together Now grant is due June 29th.
Okay.
So let's try to get that information out there as quickly as possible.
The two things due next Monday are registration for the workshop and the Together Now applications.
Okay. Well, we want to thank everyone for your time. We hope to speak with you guys again this coming Monday at the CCAC workshop. Everyone have a great evening. Take care and be safe. All right.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.
You good, Jim?